Let's quickly look at what the Daily Nation is holding for you this Tuesday. And on the front page of this particular daily, the main read, reversed. This is just showing you what our President, Dr. William Ruto, has so far done. And this in respect to reversing some of those decisions that were made by the previous regime, or the former president, I should say. Ruto has overturned over a dozen decisions made by Uhuru Kenyatta, that was made by Uhuru Kenyatta. This include restructuring government, revisiting cancelled multi-billion shilling projects, scrapping of subsidies. In fact, these were the first things that he did the moment he took over. He took oath of office. Of course, also the appointment of 6 judges, reverting of port operations from Naivasha back to Mombasa, where it was disbanding of the DCI SSU, that is a special service unit, which over time had been accused of the extra judicial killings there. Also reinstating sacked Kenyatta University Vice Chancellor, that is Professor Paul Wainaina, as the University Council. Of course, this particular article highlights, more of those things that William Ruto has done or reversed so far, which had been done by the former president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta there. Away from that, still on matters climate change, of course, this will continue shaping conversations and news at least up until 18th of this month, given that that conference is supposed to end as at that time. It's going to be a 2-week summit. And also going by what we have here is that President now accuses rich nations of skirting around issues in helping regions such as Africa that bear the brunt of climate change, amid reports a deal for rich nations to pay poor nation. Over time, we've talked about Africa only emitting about 3 to 5% of this gas emissions that would lead to climate change. And so most of what African leaders were asking is for a compensation to some of these countries, particularly African countries. But of course, going by what was gathered yesterday is that this has been pushed to a later date, and this is now what a good number of leaders are now saying that, they're just skirting around issues, given that this is one of those prevailing issues that African leaders really wanted to discuss there. Away from that, big political names on list of Kenya's nominees to EALA. Of course, this particular article has also been highlighted there on the People Daily. But then, just going by those particular names, particularly those that lost in the previous elections, whose names have been captured here, and this is also specific to the Azimio party. So this is the list has former President Uhuru Kenyatta's younger sister. These are the list of the finalists who are making it to the EALA assembly there. So that is a list of, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta's, former President Uhuru Kenyatta's younger sister, Christina Pratt. There's Azimio leader Raila Odinga's daughter, Winnie Odinga, whose name has also made it there. KANU chairman Gideon Moi, as well as Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka's son, Kennedy Musyoka. These are just some of those names from the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party who have made it to the list of Kenya's nominees to EALA. Also, Azimio is planning to pile pressure on Ruto over poll promises. Of course, some of those promises that Kenya Kwanza made while they were campaigning, this is what Azimio plans to put pressure on or pile pressure on. Key among those issues that they are also setting to navigate through is the issue of taxes, which over time the president has talked about and just put forth the importance of increase of taxes, matters of NHIF, increasing the tax bracket there, NSSF, the proposed of 6% of salaries as opposed to the 200, which is currently being contributed. And so this some of those things that Azimio is just trying to put pressure on the president, saying that it's not quite the time to increase the taxes, given the fact that Kenyans are still reeling with a high cost of living, and also for the state to look into the high cost of living matters. Of course, you've over time talked about how the president has said that, the nation needs to give him at least 1 year before we can begin seeing sort of like fruits of reduction of high cost of living. But this, among various raft of issues, is what, Azimio is just planning to put pressure on the president to see how best he's going to navigate around these issues. And of course, the SGR documents, still quite the conversation there. It is something that the former president had promised over 4 years ago to make public. That really didn't come to fruition. We've seen those a 3-page document that was released by the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport, that is Kipchumba Murkomen. But also what is coming out is that the key issues that had been raised, much as this document had been asked, for so long for it to be made public, key issues, particularly the collateral that Kenya put when they were signing this SGR deal. As it turns out, this wasn't really quite captured so well in terms of detail in this document that was made public. Over time, the Parliamentary Committee had talked of Kenya Railway Corporation, that is KRC, as well as Kenya Ports Authority, KPA, being the collateral that Kenya had put in the 477 billion SGR loan procured. But then these details weren't captured well. But also, if you really quite interacted with this document, you realize there's that aspect of, in the event that there's a dispute or a bit of ruffles here and there, then this particular case, in the event that that happens, is supposed to be solved or, to be tackled in Beijing, that is in China, as well as the input of China laws. And so the rival question that was being asked is that then where does this put Kenya in the event of a dispute? So then if you're using China laws and, it being tackled in Beijing, where does this put Kenya as a country, and where does this put, the Kenyan laws there? So that is part of also what was being asked as part of what was revealed in this particular document. And lastly, on the last page of the Daily Nation, we look at what is happening in the education sector. Again, also a story that has been captured there on the People Daily, and this is in respect to those, that statement rather that was mentioned over the weekend by the CS Education, that is Ezekiel Machogu, of a proposed plan to sort of like halt the disbursing of funds to public universities. Of course, a statement that has, quite ruffled feathers there in respect to various stakeholders. The UASU Secretary General also weighed in on the matter. Student leaders from various public universities equally weighed in on this matter, citing the fact that if this were to in any way be implemented, then in a good way, it locks out students, particularly those coming from needy families who would otherwise want to seek higher education learning. But again, we wait to see how all this will unfold over time.